Before today's episode actually starts, I'm going to let you guys know that there's a little bit of an audio issue. Like, right now it sounds pretty good, but the first couple of minutes, it took me a little bit of notice. I'm happy that my recorder kind of picked up on this, but it looked like the game audio and the computer system itself seemed to be a little bit lower in terms of the volume balancing. So, after examining it a little bit more, I fine-tuned a couple of settings. I think it's because of the volume mixer itself, but I just wanted to let you guys know that the first couple of minutes, I swear, at most it's like maybe 2 minutes before I noticed the problem, where the game audio is going to be exceptionally low. But don't worry, the rest of the episode should be back to normal. I just wanted to let you guys know that. Anyway, cue the intro. Well. Hello there, everybody. Sobar92, aka Nightmare, and welcome back to Irae Amantes Amentes. Where do I even begin with last episode? Because that was a hell of a battle between... Well, actually, it really wasn't so much of a battle. I think it was just a very good conversation between two incredibly good friends. It seems like that was a much better way of describing what that was. Just a nice little conversation between two besties. It was just, but damn. Honestly, it's one of those things that I should have seen coming. Like, that was one of the events that stuck to me the longest whenever I first started. Because it's literally at the beginning. Well, after you see, a Holocaust, it is one of the first events that you see between Ren and get to see your first appearance of Shiro, and it was one of those things that was just stuck in the back of my head. I'm like, this is going to be used later on, isn't it? And the gradual build-up, and so far I'm kind of liking how the Rhea route is actually playing out right now. Don't get me wrong, I mean, I still like the Marie route. As far as in terms of routes, I still like Marie's route the most so far. But considering how this novel is, I'm pretty sure my opinion is going to change, because that seems to be the effect that this damn thing has on me. But in other news, Shiro's dead, shot himself in the head, and now I'm wondering how this is going to affect Ren, because Shiro was speaking sense. Literally, the only way you can kill, Reinhard and them is by opening the 8th swastika to make them emanate. Because that was the only fucking way. Good lord. And I'm glad that there was no ass-pulling moment where they just created a new way to make the castle appear and all that. No, it stuck to the rules set in stone in the story, and I am happy the novel did that. One of the last 2 treasure drops I had left spilled out of my hand and vanished into nothingness. Hi! Also, another thing, Mercurius kind of fucked up because he just ignored Margaret. The one thing that is supposed to be above all else in his mind, he ignored it. So I'm wondering how that's going to affect his character. Somewhere deep in the sky, the beast laughed atop the finally materialized devil's throne.
噛みしめてむせび泣くがいい。友の亡骸を抱きしめたかろう。死後すら私に囚われたぞ。血の一滴、骨のかけら、髪の毛の一本すら K の元には残っておらん。覆したいか、この結末。ならば前で来るがいい。
Oh yeah, that's another thing. He's now part of the Devil's Castle, so that's also utterly fantastic. Alright, everything should be back to normal now. I deeply apologize for that, everybody. Now, let's actually...
覆したいか、この結末。ならば前で来るがいい。
There you go.
ここに K の倒すべき敵がいる。
The sound of army boots reverberated across the hall. The time had come to depart for battle. The Legion of the Dead let out a deafening roar as their king once again stood at the peak of his divine prowess.
さあ、待ち望んだ宿敵の誕生を祝おう。
The king raised his tremendous weight off the throne and took a step towards the battle. In that moment,
そしてカール、我が唯一の友よ。私は再び K と語り合ってみたいのだ。感謝しているのだよ。K は約束を果たしてくれた。全力を出すに足る部隊を見事与えてくれた。しかし
his golden eyes pierced through the emptiness at his side.
俯瞰を続けるその姿勢、もはや終わりにしたらどうだ。上座では見えぬものがあろう。先の一幕、まさにそれだ。我らすべてたやすいと見限り、思考せぬまま秋を嘆いていたのではないかな。試してみようではないか。残っているものはすべて私はそれを学んだ。そのためには K が必要なのだ。我が友カール・クラフトよ。
He voiced his friendship with a smile on his lips. The golden beast was indeed ready to take action and would not wait for an answer. Wonderful, most wonderful indeed. Such a splendid dance of comedy and tragedy alike. A marvelous opening like no other. His heart skipped a beat. Their friendship dazzled his eyes, ruination tinged by overflowing gratitude. Such unparalleled beauty.
ああ、もどかしい。歌い上げたい、詩に書き留めたい、本へと綴り後世へ伝えたい、恋願うよ、とどめたかったほど。心から喝采しよう。君を作って本当によかった。誇りに思うよ、我が代役。君が息子で私の鼻も高いというもの。素晴らしい完成度だ。今こそ賛美歌を捧げよう。その出生を誕生を認めよう。君は我々の福音となったのだから。
The shade trembled with joy, his blessings breeding only harm and curses. He thanked his creation for bequeathing its all to them, and marveled at its helpfulness. The curse known as love, the shackles of fatherhood. He resembled nothing but a poisonous snake as he sang his cursed blessings.
愛しき子よ、さあ立ち上がりたまえ。敵が来るぞ。君から何もかも奪った彼だ。女神の剣を手に取りたまえ。残った矜持を振り絞れ。そうだともまだ全てが終わったわけではない。片手が自ら離れてももう一本その手に癒着した重みを感じているはずだ。 一つでも大切なものが残っているならやるべきことなど決まっていよう。戦うのだ。己が全身全霊をかけて打倒せよ。奪い去ったそのことごとくを弔いのために再起せよ。取り戻すのではなく突破するのだ。最高のレクイエムを聞かせておくれ。失われた君のすべてに、取り残された君自身に、これから失われる我々のために、それこそ君ができる唯一の歌劇。なくしたものは戻らないと知っているから。だからさあ、なぎ払いたまえ。新世界のために旧世界へ居座る玩具猛獰万象あまねくすべて、その歌声で我らの古傷を淘汰するのだ。
The devil's words rang with a silent heat. Mercury, from a seat in the cosmos far beyond human comprehension, showered the stage with praise, his heart burning with ambition outside the human realm. With his shadow and the girl upon whom his desire fell felt a void open in her heart. Indeed, they had all died. She let them all die. People whom she loved and desired to protect just as strongly as the boy, all those dear souls that could have been her friends. Now she understood why Ren had been so desperate to stop all this. He knew. It was not a question of taking action or yielding. He was not afraid to get hurt, for no physical pain could compare to this choking sensation of undulated torment. She finally understood it all. She wasn't hurt, but her heart creaked in pain. She didn't know, could not imagine one could get wounded, not only through hitting or getting hit, but through the pain and sorrow of others. And that was why being surrounded by smiles made everyone happy. It made everyone wish to protect them. Pain meant little with their support. He had endured it all, facing terrors without a shred of fear, yet now... he was forced to bear it all simply because she ended up connecting with him. She had been, without a doubt, one of the perpetrators of this tragedy, handpicked by Cagliostro. He, in his malice, might have chosen her, but it was her hands that pulled the trigger. It was all unquestionably the fault of Marguerite Braille herself. The pure maiden in her innocence was unable to shift the blame. As long as there was no one to forgive her, she would blame herself for an eternity, even if but a snippet of sin proved to be of her making. And only two beings in the whole cosmos had the power to absolve her: Ren Fuji and Mercurius. However, the former was currently lost in anguish, while the latter was too intoxicated on unbridled jubilation. No one noticed the wailing goddess. No one wiped her tears. And as such, both of them failed to realize the change taking place within her. Uh-oh. A lethal fracture ravaged and spread across the script. The Devil's Castle began to rumble above as a colossal magic circle appeared in the sky. The thing seemed to have finally returned to the physical realm. A certain emotion hit me like waves, or rather, rained down on the whole of the town. Jubilation, joy. A devil laughed, conveyed his cursed blessings with applause. He was praising me, telling me I was wonderful. The voice burned my throat. The earth trembled in the wake of those two mere words. My anger bent the very air around me, making the world creak. I clenched my fists so hard my nails dug into my palms. My vision clouded over. There was noise in my ears. My pain vanished. My overflowing emotions were infused with even more strength, more and more, as if they were breathing power. You stole my treasures. How dare you? How dare you turn my life into this shit show? You laugh at having torn my joy, my daily life, everything I treasure to shreds. You boast of the feat. You even took over my partner.
ふざけんな。
You dare smile in satisfaction up there? You dare call this whole thing exquisite? You dare laugh at me from above, urging me to come?
ふざけんな、ふざけんなよ。
Congratulations, you pissed him off!
てめえらみたいなクズな集まりが揃いも揃って何こいつを値踏みしてやがるんだ。ふざけんじゃねえぞコミクズどもが。とっくに死んで腐りきった内まみれの頭でこいつを測るな。ぶっ殺そう。
My enraged howl pierced the void above. I'll make them pay. I'll kill them all. I'll decapitate all those bastards. There'll be no escape. I'll annihilate them until there's not even a speck of them left. I'll teach them what it means to mess with us. I'll drill terror into their bones. I'll rip the fucking reparation right out of their chests. I'll show them how irreplaceable Shiroyusa was to Ren Fuji. And make them fucking wish they were in hell. So...
そこにいやがれ。俺が貴様らすべて二度と戻らないバルハラへ突き落としてやる。
More power surged into my body, altering it even further. Howling at those rotten devils in the sky, I declared the beginning of our final battle.
よかろう。かかってくるがいい。
その奮戦にすべてをかけよ。期待している。踊れよ主演。
Mercurius, 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 you goddamn bastard. You really need to pay attention to Marie! Oh, hi, Isak. How you doing? The words of the two grand pillars reverberated inside the core of the castle. The heart of Velisberg silently listened, unable to hide scorn from its soul. A mere trace of emotion, but enough to send the whole contraption crumbling down. For the eternally impassive, a mere scratch could turn into a deadly venom. He kept swallowing all and everything, and his digestion could not keep up. You're not special in his eyes, Isak. Lie. You possess things important to you. You certainly do love everything, and you love me. Yet among all those equal to you, there is but one who remains special. Those words were the truth. He could not hide it. It was the one true emotion that burned in his father's heart. Not Isak, not his subordinates, not his mother, much less the so-called adversary rushing up the steps. Ever since the beginning, he had eyes only for one. The hollow shade that presented him with all this power. The heart of the Devil's Castle trembled irregularly without a soul noticing. He hated him. He despised Karlkraft. Why was it him, a friend, and not his own son? That one truth stirred the very source of everything. If he possessed human ways of expressing emotion, he would now be gnashing his teeth in a tsunami of uncontained fury. How dare you? Why, I won't forgive you. You will pay. Despite knowing that remaining calm and tranquil would be the optimal way to serve his father, he nonetheless wasn't able to contain the filth rising up and boiling within the deepest corners of his heart. Grime distorted the gear of a perfect mechanism. A stone snuck into the engine. A bubble emerged in the fuel. The whole thing creaked. Its efficiency decreased, with its incessant ripples growing stronger and stronger. The entire thing calmed in a moment, returned to normal. Likely as a result of his pride at being the core of everything, the mechanism resumed its regular operation, hiding the truth of its momentary disruption like it had never happened at all. He concealed his emotion of envy. Without a word, either physical or cognitive, Isak resumed his role as if nothing had happened. On the surface, he returned to his impassive state. But on the inside, turmoil! But there was a single exception to the fact. One could not physically touch nor communicate with him. Even with his own master, Reinhard, he barely exchanged more than a few words. He viewed others as nothing more than scarecrows. Only the imperious shape of the beast would register in his golden eyes. There was no other soul he would care to connect with. As such, given the framework of his mind, it was impossible for his inner turmoil to seep outside to anyone. Superfluous noise is undesirable. He needed but one. As such, no one would know this. He'd merely linger in the crevice between despair and envy for all eternity. If he had truly been a single organism, that is. A new piece, so very similar to himself, had been on its way to him. The other Sonnenkind. His substitute, a piece of similar function and importance. It alone could catch the waves of his emotions.
もしかして怒っているのイザー君違うこれは
She ascended, drawing closer, step by step. The 8th swastika had opened, and as Rhea was drawn into the castle with the advent of that event, she came into contact with that soundless turmoil of the core. She held the souls of her dearest friends tight in her arms. Those that sacrificed themselves to open their path, she ascended upwards into her own battlefield, not letting their souls leave her side. She could feel intentions once hidden through her fingertips. She shed a tear at their warmth, and once again swore to face the essence of the Colossus waiting on her destination. She would keep her eyes open this time. She would listen to the sound of its heart. She would convey everything to Isak, and tell him what he truly felt. She would save him.
それをできるのは
At this point,
私だけだから
yeah, at this point, yeah. The emotion burning a hole in his heart, a feeling everyone had experienced at least once in their lives. They had to tell him that what he felt for his father was the most natural emotion known to mankind. They had to talk. It was precisely what she, who herself kept her eyes and ears shut to the truth, had to do now. He would doubtlessly reject her. Probably. Come to think of it, this is Isak that we are talking about, but yeah. But that was just fine. A few difficulties were exactly what she, who kept running all her life, needed. Even if his heart had been filled to the brim with indifference and resignation, she wanted to believe her feelings to be just as strong. Isn't that right, everyone? So,
待ってて藤井君
I'll make sure to be of use to you. Directing those words at the friends they had lost and the man she loved, Rhea plunged into the destitute whirlpool ravaging the heavens. I think with how Rhea is right now, she's probably the only one that can actually hold off and keep her individuality within the absolute maelstrom that is Isak. And with that, all of the swastikas have been activated. Hip hip hoo fucking ray. Both her consciousness and body floated in the air. The ever-continuous sensation of rising went on for a while longer until she finally landed in her determined spot. Oh! We're back here again! The first thing to fill her vision was a field of flowers. Scenery she had seen once before. The hell of affectionate love welcomed Rhea Himuro to its confines with blooming flowers. Again? It seemed like the place of her damnation did not change. The brisk atmosphere and the scent of flowers remained the same as before. The light breeze gently caressed her cheeks, and as such she could not keep disappointment away from her heart. Nothing had changed. A picture was worth 1,000 words. Rhea shook her head, casting the dark thoughts away. Now was not the time for idle thoughts. Things had changed, and she would prove it. Believing that she was not invited here without a reason, she stood up out of her own volition. She took a step on the lush ground and looked about the paradise one more time. Falling flower petals, the scenery seemed as gentle as always, the air carrying the scent of earth, flowers, and honey. A hell that looked like paradise. Anyone would mistake it for heaven before tasting the brunt of its true nature firsthand. Alfheim was that beautiful, and at the same time terrifying to the bone. At the very least, it was bad enough for her to never wish to come here again. It would turn excessive love into malice, affection, love, the inability to give something up, the refusal to forgive, a whirlpool of misery bred by all such emotions. This was a graveyard birthed by love, be it excessive or deficient, a nigh tangible sorrow filled its every pore. As such, these orphans from before should still be somewhere around.
あの子たちは
In Debeli? She couldn't find a single soul. The smiling, joyful children who kept repeatedly dying did not exist in this place. She could figure why Schreiber wouldn't be around, but why no one else? The priest, their substitute father, was similarly nowhere in sight. Ray felt like a lone flower in the entire garden. Strange. This was an eternal torture chamber of affection and hate. No emotions or obsessions could come into being without having a target, and thus, it made little sense for her to be here alone. But her confusion soon changed to conviction.
そっかだから
Who did she think of upon entering this castle? Who did she wish to address? Who did she have in mind as she fell into this paradise? There was but one person in her mind, and that was why she found herself here. Her scheme moved along the right track, and there was nothing strange about her current situation. She inhaled a deep breath, steeling her resolve.
出てきてイザーク私はあなたと話がしたいお互い相手の目を見て話しましょう
As she addressed the flower petals dancing in the wind, an abrupt change contorted the sky. Hey! The emptiness momentarily ruptured, and a young yet imposing boy emerged from the rift. Beneath his clean clerical garments, his skin was white as milk. There was a certain dignity and eminence to his bearing that did not suit his age. Both his eyes sparkled gold. There was not a hint of emotion in those vessels of glass. He clearly did not regard Ray as a fellow human being. That was a look one gave to insects or stones. He merely glanced at the rabble, a noisy ant out of many, with utmost indifference. That was doubtless how he saw her, and so it didn't make sense for him to answer her call. As such,
来いテレジア今から流出を開始する父様の世界をお前が生むのだ持ってグラズヘイムに解けよ
Yeah, how about no? His unfeeling words ordered her to comply. Rhea's thoughts and consternations meant nothing to him. The imperious tone of his command reminded her of his progenitor. But she knew that much from the start. Everything about Isak's existence converged to that one point. He who originated from this cradle of baleful witchcraft possessed no gaps or instability. He was not a construct her words alone could ever sway. He was the perfect engine of the Devil's Castle. Quote, was. The power unit and the supervisor in one. His mind was not of the kind to change in a mere day or two. And my neighbors are mowing their lawn. What the hell? He carried out his procedure with the utmost uniformity, equally and without limit. The eternal engine could manage hell precisely because it was unchanging. Yet Rhea felt that her words could reach him. The proof of that lay in what he had unconsciously uttered. She most definitely felt his core faintly tremble in the moment the castle swallowed her.
ねえイザーク
As such, she addressed him in a tone so calm it surprised even herself.
父様って誰
A simple enough question. Her voice, its echo ringing clearer than ever before, pierced the boy's chest. Isak said nothing, remaining silent as a stone. And who could blame him? He would never answer a foolish question. There was no need, nor did he possess a function to. Confirmation and denial were both equal as a response. There was nothing odd about his impregnable demeanor. If anything, Rhea's insistence to ask a question she already knew the answer to could be labeled far more strange. As such, her words seemingly affected nothing at all in the exterior. The core of the Devil's Castle regarded the girl's meaningless words in silence. The answer to that question meant nothing to the two, who were but mere instruments to emanate hell unto the physical realm. Yet, what about the interior? Did they not send ripples, no matter how small, along the surface of his heart's serene lake? Who was his father? The answer was obvious. Only one name danced at the tip of his tongue. The mystery that had long shrouded the framework of the Obsidian Round Table was no longer much of a secret. The gold confirmed it. Isak, Ain's Sonnenkind, was both son and heir to the beast. He no longer had a reason to hesitate to proclaim himself as such. There was nothing hindering him anymore. And yet...
父様って、あの人でしょ？私も全然人事じゃないけれど、それしか考えられないものね。なら、それはひどいこと。あの人は絶対に、あなたを顧みたりはしないもの。
Why did he not deny her words? He merely stood in front of Rhea with nary a word on his lips. Why does this kind of seem like Rhea just casually walked up to Isak and like, your father never loved you like my parents loved me? That just kind of, that's... It's brutally true, but...
ハイドリヒ教は、私もあなたもどうでもいいと思ってる。愛していると言ってても、それは高みから見た視線でしかない。黄金の光は平等だから。それはあなたと全く同じ。譲れない大切なものなんか持っていたら、何もかも飲み込めたりはしないもの。ねえ、そうでしょ？イザーク。あなたは、今までこの城に落ちてきた人の中で、大切な人がいた？特別だと感じたものが、たった一つでもあった？
Isak made no answer. He remained inert as a stone while the girl's lonely voice crashed upon him like surging waves. It was hard to tell if he was even listening at all. He remained motionless, staring at her with a pair of hollow, golden eyes like a mute doll. Yet the answer reached Rhea all the same. Those eyes saw nothing. Even his own mother was another brick of to his castle, an immaterial host who carried him for a few months inside her belly. That outlook mimicked Reinhard Heydrich perfectly. As such, there was something Rhea had to tell him no matter what.
あなたを見ているハイドリヒ教の視線も、それと一緒。何も変わらない。あなたにとってのリザが、あの人にとってのあなたなんだよ。皮肉だね。自分で証明しちゃったんだ。どれだけ尽くしても、温かい言葉をかけてもらっても、可能性なんかないって。血のつながりなんて関係ない。平等な価値観に揺らぎはない。
Their roles had merely been switched. Much like the son remained unfeeling towards his mother's death, the father felt nothing for his son. He would forever remain a mere gear, a lifeless part of the mechanism.
あなたの思想、あなたの認識、それこそが誰にも愛されない証明なの。
Reinhard Heydrich would not give even his son a second glance. He prized and treasured all things in the world with absolute equality. Like father, like son, the saying rang true indeed. The mind of a devil that failed to find true value in the entire cosmos. Ravaged by a hunger to devour all, yet unable to appreciate a single thing.
全部好きってことは、全部どうでもいいってことだよ。
Yet Isak did not even bat an eye at her words. His golden eyes, putting even the flowers in the backdrop to shame with their luster, regarded Rhea in complete silence, as if asking if that was everything she wished to say. Was his interior a frozen lake or a seething inferno? Or could it be that he lacked it altogether? With even that question left unanswered, he remained passive and silent as the grave. He exhibited no change whatsoever, almost as if waiting for Rhea to continue.
だからあの人は、ハイドリヒ教は勝てないよ。勝つのは絶対。藤井君。一番重要で大切にしなければいけない相手をおろそかにしてるもの。全部同じだから、重要なものへ意識を割り振れない。あなたの声に応えてないから、あの人は全力を出せないんだよ。
He would simply press ever onwards, driven by an insatiable hunger without ever discovering his limits. unable to even perceive the existence of others.
自分でも知らないその地点へ彼は一生到達できない。いつまでも飢えたまま全力を出せない理由に気づかない。心臓がなくても自分は動ける。力を出せる。そんなことも疑えないから。
ありえん。
Isak finally broke his silence in response to that most absurd of notions. His condescending voice drifted through the air like mud. It was not like the accusations moved him. Her feelings did not penetrate his being. It was merely the result of him growing confused as to why anyone would spout something so absurd, and his lips parted before he knew it. A conversation came to be between the two.
頭の出来が劣悪だな、テレジア。お前は単純な比較もできんのか。
What an incredible fool. In that moment, his golden eyes gazed upon not an insect, but an utter fool.
仮にお前の言葉が真実だとして、だからどうした？父様は。黄金は無敵だ。破れることなどない。誰にも倒せん。
The previous route begs to differ.
従前ではない。全力を出せぬ。ならば負ける。まさか、それこそ無双だ。幼稚なざれ言に過ぎんだろう。絶対とはな。非するものがないからそう呼ばれるのだ。
An ant could exert all its strength, but that would hardly make it a legendary beast, and no matter how able a bird, it will never fly above the moon.
あの方を人の物差しでなぜ測る？それこそ無粋だとまだわからんか。ほんの少し撫でただけで皆平服する。誰であろうと例外はない。最初から生息域が違うのだ。
Perfect and flawless, eternal and absolute, to even ponder the concept of defeat in the presence of such a being went beyond merely foolish. How could she have been so stupid? Isak's only conclusion was that the girl's mind must have been ravaged by some form of ailment to have her say such things.
底なしとは、そこがないからそう呼ばれるのだ。あれは所詮有限でしかないうぞうむぞうだ。何ができる？同じ計りにかけることすら前提として間違っている。
That man was absolute. Not even reason could bind him. Isak prided himself on being the foundation of such a father. There was no doubt or anxiety in his heart. That was all he needed. To try and compare him to anyone else would be nothing more than an insult.
あとわずかで全て塗り替わる。流出が始まれば、全てが黄金と一つになる。語るべくもない。全て逃がさん。今存在する基地感全て、このベルトールによってかけらも残さず押し流すのだ。
That matter had been long since decided by fate. It was an inevitability, a certainty without doubt. No longer could anyone stop it. Rhea found herself momentarily overwhelmed by that delusionless zeal. He was an ally born with an unwavering will. Neither heat nor force could bend it, a mechanism fashioned for that sole purpose. He was different from mere earthly metals. He existed on the realm where arguing human laws and feelings had no meaning. It was an equivalent to trying to communicate with a being from another dimension with a human language. There was simply no way it could have gone through to him. As such, the development Rhea secretly hoped for vanished like morning mist. Nothing could reach him. She could not upset him. A result she had known beforehand. Out of options, she could be of no use in the end. Their conversation had become a mere confirmation of that fact. But one single thing he uttered puzzled her.
押し流す
That phrase, for some reason, still lingered in her ears. They would extirpate the old world, and for that end they had to emanate their castle. That fact alone kept her suspicious. The way he phrased it seemed odd, unnatural. Remember, think over those words one more time. He even said the world would be painted over. As if he was talking about a picture.
しかりだ。我らは全てを押し流す。流出とはな、ただエイビヒカイトの最終異界を示すのではない。 それは座の交代。世界に対するみそぎのようなものなのだ。
Purification, washing dirt away. So that was what puzzled her. She simply could not connect the emanation of hell with the concept of cleansing. Wait a second. That was still strange. She was about to ask another question before promptly stopping herself. Her thoughts plummeted through the depths of her consciousness, comprehension spreading through her like a drop of ink. She began to tremble. She did not wish to comprehend it. An absurd truth was taking shape within her mind. All would become gold. The inheriting of the throne, the purification of the world, all those words converged at a single point, an answer that transcended all human comprehension, the mere thought of which rendered her completely and thoroughly speechless. One who had attained the Birya degree could momentarily overwhelm the laws of the world with their craving. There was a slight difference between how hegemony and transcendence functioned, but that one fact stayed true in both cases. They would both ravage the rules of the world. One's consciousness could outstrip the restraints of physical laws. Then what about an even higher degree? Atziluth, emanation. If an intermittent effect flowed out from within one's mind into the world outside, what consequences could that have? The old world would be washed clean away, as it purified. The new law would continuously amplify until it filled everything. In that case, there was but one answer to it all.
世界法則の書き換え。
Her conclusion was so colossal in scope that it took all her strength to even put it into words. The other's golden eyes lit up with a condescending glint, as if mocking her for taking so long to realize it. She felt lightheaded. Her body trembled so much that Rhea almost felt like it no longer belonged to her. Assimilate the whole world to one's craving? Expand one's own rule throughout the whole cosmos? What the hell was that? When did this become a creation myth?
覚えていないか？言ったはずだぞ。お前たちは断崖の先に答えを求めている。ならば、それを絶対の法則として流れ出させ、旧秩序を塗り替える。一掃して消し去ってしまう。すなわち、代替わりだよテレジア。そのミザへのな。
Seemingly reading Ray's mind like an open book, the boy answered her unvoiced question, effectively shattering her final hope. She almost felt a voice mocking her, declaring that she could no longer even pray to God.
この世界はそういう作りになっている。そして繰り返してきたのだ。幾度も、彼方より果てもなく。流出へ至った絶対者による世界法則の塗り替え。その行いを繰り返すことにより、この世界は成り立っている。それはお前がよく知る今の世界も変わらない。唯一にして絶対の法だ。別段珍しいことでもない。無二の強者がこの世のありさまを決定づけ、100の輩はそれに平服して従うのみ。ごくごく自然な話だろう。
だから代替わり。
One who transcended all and everything would give birth to the law of the world. To have the very craving burning in one's heart paint over the entire cosmos without a shred of mercy. A deed so colossal and overwhelming that no words could ever do it justice. Resistance was futile. Bowing one's head to the rule of the new lord was the only option. Rhea finally understood everything about the monsters they faced, the reason why they planned to continue their murderous march without any heed for human casualties. They were no simple war maniacs, nor monsters starving for blood. She couldn't believe it. Yet she had no choice but to acknowledge it. They were all prisoners. Despite all their incredible powers, they were all, without exception, shackled by someone else's law, downtrodden captives glowering at the bars of their cells.
じゃあ今の世界、あなたたちがしきりに言っているゲットっていうのは
Chained strong enough to subdue the devil.
今現在、この世界を流出させた人間の渇望だろう。いや、元人間と言うべきか。
A deed possible only for a god.
かつてこの世界を流出させた者の願いが何かなど知らん。だが、これだけは言えるだろう。その男、 あるいは女はひどく性格が悪い。無限の探求心でも持っていたのか、あるいはやり直したい過去でもあったのか。いずれにせよそれにとって人生は一回で足りなかったのだろう。何度も、そう何度でも回り続けるように、他者を歯車のように見立てて全く同じ動きを強いている。永劫回帰の始まりだな。そして次なる流出が起こるまで絶対なる決まり事となり鎮座しているのだ。今この時でさえ。
A tale not unlike the Great Flood in Noah's time. Only the select few would be saved in the Ark, when with all others doomed to certain death amidst the merciless waves.
故にそのものが到達するのは流れの中心。そこにある座だ。現世界の象徴として残り続ける。殺すことなど誰にもできんし、してはならん。すればおそらくもろともに世界ごと消えるだろう。新たな絵画が用意されぬまま死ねば、我らもまた一連卓傷、自殺もできん。己自身が世界であるために自傷すら許されぬのだろう。溢れ出した渇望は世界を満たし、今度は己がその質量にとらわれる。そうだ、この世界は間違っている。我ら皆例外なく壊したがるのはそういう理屈だ。つながれていれば、あとはその理由だけで解放を求めるだろう。それが我々のいる世界の現状。勝者は飽食した勝利に嘆き、敗者は永劫続く敗北に同国するしかない閉じた円環。擦り切れるまで再生を続ける終わりなき映写機構。分かっただろうテレジア。なぜ我々がこの世界をゲットーと呼ぶのか。そして黄金が流出に至るその意義が。
She had no reply to throw back at him. They truly were beings far transcending her own insignificant self, their gaze fixed on matters beyond her meager comprehension. It was only natural that they cared little for sacrificing the lives of a single city. Then why should they? Their ceremony meant remaking the entire world. A few lives here and there meant nothing when compared to the scope of their goal. Such was the reasoning behind their universal love. This was beyond terrible, as if she had not been exposed to enough despair already. Like Needhog feeding on the roots of Yggdrasil, they would embark upon and devote themselves to their mission with marble will, the chirping of pebbles and insects, and amusing background noise to fill their ears. Mass murderers that taunted the world at large, their hearts beating for the sole purpose of overthrowing the current order.
全てはそのためだ。私もお前もそのためにこそある。そして役目があるのだ。大義だと思え。
Unquestionable and supreme, showing neither hesitation nor heightening of the spirits, Isak only took a step towards her like a ghastly apparition from a horror story.
光栄に思って叱るべきだろう。黄金の礎たる栄光。まさかとは思うが、ここまで聞いて拒否するほど壊れてはいないだろうな。テレジア、お前に不備は許されん。我ら血肉の一片までも父様のためにのみ存在するのだ。役目を果たせ。老気せよ増年金と。不臭の漂うグズの思想などしてくれるな。
He stood before her now, proclaiming that they would finally become the true heart of their father. They would turn into the mechanism to drive the castle, and sign the advent of a calamity that would paint over the cosmos. He declared it as a fact without a shred of emotion to color his tone. He reached out to her. The moment he touched her, Rhea too would become no more than a mere cog within the mechanism. Rhea Himura would irrevocably turn into a part of the devil's castle. She observed the slowly encroaching end to her very existence with impassive eyes. She wasn't blind to them, nor did she decide to give up, but she wasn't looking for an opportunity to attack. She remained immobile because she had been too deep in thought. She did not resist because she had already made her resolve.
イザーク、 もう一つだけ教えて。流出によって世界は塗り替えられる。今は基地間で塗りつぶされているから、ハイドリ秘境はこれから地獄を流れ出させようとしているんだよね。
His fingers drew ever closer, accompanied by an affirming silence. Her words gained Rhea no time. Only moments remained till her fate would be sealed. They were a hair's breadth away from her skin. The castle would swallow her the moment they touched it. And in that moment...
じゃあ、ねえ、それって、ハイドリ秘境はどうやって知ったの？
The words made Isak's fingers come to a halt. Silence descended upon the two. It seemed as if Rhea had cast a magic spell of some sort. This was the first time her words had any effect on Isak. The resulting silence was not that of affirmation. He lost himself in thought, looking for an answer to her question. He had no actual reason to apply to an insect, yet the question itself bothered him just the same. After all, it was not really a question, but a statement. There was something clearly wrong with the causality of it all. An obvious inquiry, yet he, with his hands still dangling motionlessly in the air, could not find a satisfying answer. The truth and veracity of the emanation he had declared. Why did Reinhard Heydrich know of this apotheosis of sorcery? Upon deeper consideration, it was certainly a question worth pondering. For one, it was quite evident he could not have learned it through his own means. During his mortal life, the Golden Beast was an official of the Gestapo, feared among his contemporaries as the Hangman. He was not originally a sorcerer like Malleus. He could not possibly know about emanation. Then again, it was him they were talking about. It was possible he could have noticed and figured it all out on his own. It appeared to coincide with everything that happened to him down the road. Could it have led him to realize the true meaning of Ewikite? But then, why did he talk of it as of knowledge and not as something born of conviction? It most certainly seemed like he knew the truth rather than merely suspecting it. As if he had seen it with his own eyes. As if he was recounting someone else's words.
おかしいよね。知るはずがないんだよ、そんなこと。言い方だって、ちょっと考えたら変だってわかる。さすがのハイドリ秘境も、やらなければできない。軍人さんがおまじないに触れる機会なんて、本当ならあるわけないしね。
Even if he could change the world by merely snapping his fingers, nothing would happen if he never thought of doing that. An omnipotent entity was no different from a mountain or a star, as long as it remained motionless. Reinhard could not have had that many opportunities to run into witchcraft, as he was busy with his work for the government. He might have absorbed all information known to man like a boundless sponge. But he could not know of something he had never encountered. Then how did he come to know of this grand deed? The actual concept of filling the world with one's craving? Who told him? Why did he even know the final conclusion of it all? How could anyone convey that information as knowledge? Only those that had been to the end of the world could speak of it. Even if someone figured it out, no one could speak of it as a certain fact. Only those that knew with certainty could claim it to be the truth. Not as mere speculation, but as a fact regarding emanation. Overriding the very law governing the world. Only someone who had actually carried out such a deed could ever know of it as a fact. There was one such being. The cause of it all had been hiding in their ranks from the very beginning, the kindred of the beast, the only one to be graced by his genuine smile. It was none other than he who had told everyone about the ghetto, thus precipitating the birth of the Obsidian Round Table. Only one man fit the bill. Rhea felt a slight tremble run along the castle, a ripple of indecipherable minuteness. Was it anger or contempt? Isak once again fell into a deadly silence. This time Rhea made a nod, having felt the change in the boy.
消去法にすらならないね。つまりはそういうことなんだよ、きっと。
They were all in the palm of Buddha's hand from the very beginning. A giant warship that could only follow a predetermined path. Its personnel were sublime, and all of its facilities cutting edge. Yet it could not pass a sea that had split apart, and its destination would be upset if the stars in the sky realigned. And I can hear Mercurius laughing in the distance. Calculated guidance masquerading as free advancement, and of course nothing could stand in the devil's way on that path.
だからなんだというのだ、テレジ
He nonetheless remained impassive despite learning the truth.
結末は変わらん。黄金は比する者なき魔軍の長。旧世界の異物程度。恐れる道理などありはしない。
His faith in the gold's eternal luster was absolute. Lord Hydric was invincible. The conviction of his heir and loyal vassal would never waver on that single point.
ならばこそ、お前もその力を貸すがいい。父の願いを叶えるために、代え難い勝利を送るためにも、バルハラはその機能を損なってはならん。
Now he had an even bigger reason to absorb the girl. He had to fulfill his duty at all costs. They had to be prepared to face their new enemy in the best shape possible. His heart trembled with excitement at the advent of their true enemy.
この世界も一緒に死んでしまうんでしょう。
父様の新世界が始まるのみだ。何の問題もない。
But that was precisely what Rhea had to stop no matter what.
じゃあ結局あの人は残ってしまうんじゃないのかな。ただ無限に蘇るここの一員になるだけ。
Hell was a place for the dead. It would not exclude him. No matter how much of a hindrance his existence was, he too would incessantly resurrect in the new world. He would doubtless use the chance to traverse it like Dante, with naught but joy in his heart. Their hell was too indiscriminate and allowed for no exceptions. Her statements left Isak deep in thought. He failed to notice that the very act of pondering and doubting was unbefitting the gear of a perfect mechanism. His hope for his father's perfect victory was merely a pretext used to direct his fangs at the sole being in the world whom he regarded with malice. Yet he was not even conscious of the very anger scorching his heart. Having been brought up in the palace of the dead, he did not possess the capacity for judgment like other people.
世界の重ね塗りにより生じる得意点。そこならば、存在を消し去ることも可能だろう。
得意点。
He nodded. Was the shadow that momentarily flickered inside his pupils love or hatred?
世界にうがたれた穴の中、事象へ影響を及ぼさない無色の空間。流出同士の重ね塗りによって世界が耐えきれず破れた先、どこでもない場所ならば、あるいは全父様のために。
Once the two worlds clashed, a hollow space governed by no laws would momentarily manifest. If they could defeat him there, if they could push the old god out of the entire cosmos, that was the only place where defeating him would not result in the complete destruction of the world. A simple answer, yet a most challenging task indeed, and to accomplish it, they first had to...
大丈夫。その願いは叶うよ。
Rhea never doubted that Renfuji would also rise to the degree of emanation. She succumbed to the fingers touching her forehead without a shred of anxiety in her heart.
そうか。ならそうであれ。機能を果たせるのならば、それで構わん。
An arrogant and one-sided appropriation of existence. He was about to absorb Rhea Himuro to his core as a nourishment, placing her under the complete dominion of his will.
いいよ。私を使って。
A calm and serene voice answered him. He was not the only one with a mission. She too would do more than just believe. She would fight.
私にもやらなければいけないことがある。もう目は閉じないよ。
Isak had a plan, but so did she. They aimed for different goals, but in this one instance, the means to achieve them overlapped. As such, she did not mind being taken away to the same battle he fought. The place she needed to reach, where she could be of use. Ah! Glitchy! Isak regarded Rhea in complete silence as her consciousness slowly faded away. His gaze betrayed not a shred of emotion. He merely wished her to be of use, like a tool. And so Rhea plunged into the darkness. She melted into the crucible of countless wailing souls. Then she regained form, conscious of being molded into the core of the castle. A breach in the shape of Rhea Himuro. Unable to move, she was slowly stuffed into it like a puzzle piece. Her limbs became cogs and gears, her heart an engine, her head a data processor. Her throat turned into wires, but not before a final fragment of human speech left it.
うち
creaking circuits, and a hoarse whisper. The name of her beloved. She couldn't utter a word of gratitude. Her faint, barely audible voice seemed to be begging for aid. She tried making a bitter smile at her own disgraceful display, but her lips would not move. She sank deeper and deeper into the crucible, her consciousness dissipating in nothingness. Damn. Chapter 13, Acta est Fabula. Alright, I'm actually going to end this here. A part of the reason why I'm ending it here right now is due to the possible errors that I've been noticing with audio balancing, and I don't want to possibly screw this up even more. So I apologize for the shortness of this episode, but I need to make sure that everything is working. I managed to get it to a workable state right now. Hopefully, by the time I'm done speaking right now and I check the footage, it should be back to the balance. I did multiple tests at this point. Took me the good part of an hour. But anyway, or fuck, it might have been an hour, like 30, I don't know, it's like 30 minutes. Fuck, it took me a while. But anyway, I'm going to end it there. That was a very interesting conversation between Isaka and Himuro, so I'm kind of wondering how Rei is going to be able to possibly help while she's officially part of the castle now. More than anything, Ren's pissed off and shit's about to hit the fan, so thank you all very much for watching, and I will definitely see you guys in the next video. Again, I do apologize for the errors.